Hi, everyone. My name is Dennis. I've been an instructor for Kaplan for about 14 years now, and I'm really happy to be here. Given the circumstances, when we first put this event together, feels like ages ago. I know a lot has changed since then, but I just want to say two things to kind of kick us off. One, if you're feeling stressed out or feeling anxiety, I just want you to know completely normal. It'd be actually kind of weird if you weren't feeling that way. Nothing is the same right now. Everything's upside down. But I'm hoping, as the second point, that we'll be able to give you some support, some guidance, and really help you to feel like you can take control of what you can control and take the next steps, no matter how small, towards whatever goal that you might have as we work through it. So again, thank you guys for being here. Real quick, if you guys will hit up the poll, it's right next to your chat. And then also at the same time, why don't you tell me where you guys are tuning in from? I'm located out in Edgewater, New Jersey, so right across the Hudson River from Manhattan. So kind of real close to, I guess, one of the epicenters of this whole situation. But would love to hear from you. And I just want to say hi to those who have already chatted in. Hi, Bobby. Hi, Javesh. Hi, Fikra. I hope I said that night right. Let me know if I didn't. Hi, Bree. And hi, Guess. But would love to continue to chat with you all throughout today. But let me introduce the guests that we have with us. We've got an amazing panel that I want you to meet and be able to talk to. So if you'll come on camera as I introduce you, that'd be great. First up, we've got Christopher Williams. He's the Associate Director of STEP. And Chris, I'll definitely want you to give your first thoughts here at NYIT. He also works with pre-college students to help them make the most of their time at college. And so I think he's gonna have a lot of great advice to offer. We've got Stephen Contreras, who is the Director of Student Retention at SUNY Upstate. He also administers the school's food pantry and the other emergency services for students. So just going to be a tremendous resource. And then Eric Cuchilla, who is one of our Kaplan leadership scholars over in University of Michigan by way of Ecuador to New York to Michigan. So he's definitely going to offer some insights in terms of his experiences as a first-gen student and how we can go from there. But guys, welcome. It's really, really great to have you here. And I'm sure a lot of students, as you can see, kind of from all over the map. We've got San Francisco, DC, Newark, Hawaii, Bloomington, Pennsylvania. Okay, there are too many. There's a bunch of students in the room. What are your first thoughts to these students, to these parents, to these, just what, given everything that's going on? Stephen, you want to kick us off? You're on mute, but yeah.
I would say the first thing is really just kind of working with administration that you're currently at, or that if you are at an undergrad institution or you are at a high school, or just really working with the administration to kind of see what resources and support they can offer to you all. And really also, similar to what you said, Dennis, is just really acknowledging this moment that we're in and looking to see if you do need anything, making sure you're contacting the counseling center or counseling services around, because I think we are in a very weird time of everything that's happening. And I'll say those are the things that are kind of just coming off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's great. And just so everyone knows, we've got about 60, so 2/3 of students in the room are in high school right now. We've got about 12% college students, 8% high school counselors, 4% parents. So really great. Please keep chiming in. We'd love to hear from you. And I hear you, Stephen. There are resources out there. We just got to be proactive, and we're going to dive in a little bit deeper in terms of how we can make that happen. Eric, what about you? First thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say that make sure that you're well informed, whether it's about the virus or like how it affects your community, and as well as like the colleges, universities that you are interested in, like how the university is responding to it and how it will affect you in which way.
Yeah. I know you were telling me when we were chatting before, some of this news you got even ahead of time, right? How did that happen? What was the in you had there?
Yeah, so when I first got to University of Michigan, the first thing that I did was try to join clubs where regardless whether it was like about fitness or if it was about me being Latino or anything like that. I joined those clubs and they essentially had group chats. When this whole pandemic hit the University of Michigan, information was going around and we we always made sure that everyone had the right information, and we even got the information before the university sent it out. For instance, we knew that they were going to move some of the remaining students at the university into one of the bigger dorms. I knew it before the university sent out the email.
Yeah, makes sense. We'll definitely want to dive into that and how you made those connections. And then Chris, what do you got?
Hi everyone. It's just it is a very weird time, and I know it seems almost daunting, but this is actually really the best time. If you wanted to catch up, I know that there's a lot of high school students here. This is the time to really look back and kind of review all of those things that you may have missed or wanted to double check or didn't have time because there was testing and whatnot. This is a great time to review that stuff. And also to kind of look forward a little bit. Where would you like to go? You know, using the internet, and taking a look at what colleges are out there. What does it look like? What's the campus maps? You know, things that you really just didn't get a chance to, and you said, "Oh, I wish I could have." Now is your "I wish I could have" time.
I really like that. That sounds like a really great way to kind of frame it and think about it. Real quick, we're going to throw up a new poll. We just want to hear from you, how you're doing. It'll be open-ended. Feel free to respond. We'd love to kind of think about, how you're feeling. And then, Chris, I'd actually love to ask you, like, of the students you're working with, are you able to kind of get them to think this way? How have they been responding? I know what's the group you work with predominantly? It's
I work with underrepresented minorities in middle school and high school. I kind of guide them into the healthcare and engineering professions. And I actually I've been talking with my students online. And today I actually was speaking with some of my students, and we did sit down, virtually, and talked about some of the things that they should be thinking about. You know, a lot of times they would come and say, I wish I had more time to look at AP history or look at AP math, and I really didn't get these concepts. So I kind of guided them to resources that they would use in order to really nail down those concepts, so that they were able to use this time effectively and kind of get away from the fear that's associated with it. And it is scary and it's frightening, but there's also things that are out of your control, and you can actually take control over your own learning.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously a test is maybe a poor comparison at this time, just given all the uncertainty, but same things we think about when we think about the stress anxiety you get from a test or from a big assignment you've got coming up. Take control. And we're going to continue to think of ways to help you do that, especially as you think about how you're going to make the most of your college experience. We actually had our first question in the chat. It was this a GRE prep course prior to the COVID crisis? It was not. So this was actually going to be just a meeting just about making the most of college for first-gen students. But we kind of had to switch gears. We're actually thinking about canceling, but thought it might be really great. And Stephen is actually able to join us. Actually, Stephen, I want to ask you, great. We're going to talk a lot about what are the next steps you can take, but what about like now? Like how I'd love, I'm looking at these poll results, and, like there are going to be students and just parents out there who may be worried about housing, the food, the financial. I mean, everyone is kind of in that realm. What can you say?
I would say one of the things is just being active now, because there are a lot of programs and initiatives that are out there specifically for this specific crisis that are happening. So just kind of being more aware on lines of what's happening locally, being more attuned to like the news. So for example, I'm currently in Syracuse, New York. So one of the things that's happening out here, there are a lot of students that are struggling with internet. They didn't have internet, and now that everything is online, they're struggling to kind of, how do I get this expense that I wasn't prepared for? Spectrum has kind of kicked in here in Central New York, providing students with free internet for like the next two months, in which they're doing online. So I would say just really just getting out there and really getting to know what's happening locally and what's happening in the news, because there are a lot of different resources that are popping up that weren't there before, and it's just a response and really kind of making sure to help everyone of what they're experiencing through COVID-19.
Yeah, is it the news, or are there other particular places that maybe like is the university going to generally have like a website? I know it might be different from university to university, but what have you guys done on your end?
I would say for us, we have linked people up to the food pantry
Yeah.
network, and kind of having students, giving them the national number of food pantries and having them call in and see what food pantries are open to them and locally available. Really connecting with with your university or with your high school, and kind of seeing what other things they have available. And one of the things I would like to plug is it's a nonprofit called the Hope Center, that really has a strong sense along the lines of different things, and different things are available for students, such as there are different grants that students may be available to students and to families now because of COVID-19. And they're a great resource to kind of see what else is there, not only locally but also federally, that may be available as well. And it's called the Hope Center, and it's a great resource for students, especially first gen students, or really for anyone to kind of know the different resources that are available to them.
Yeah, so I think you can Google that. Maybe we could put that in the chat as well. Thank you, Stephen. That's great. Eric, what would you add here?
I'd say that given the circumstances and how much the time that you're spending is, I'd say like try to find yourself a way to distract yourself. If you notice that the waves of news that come in make you anxious about like your future, given that it's a little bit unstable right now, find a hobby. If it's something that you've been putting off, like learning how to play guitar, now it's a good time. Or like if you know that you're falling behind in some classes, like try to pick up like some lessons that will maybe bump you into like the same timeline that everyone is, but making sure that you're checking on the people you know and the people that you care about.
I like it. I like it. So it's not even like, don't forget about mental health, right? It's not all just about housing, food, financial. It's also about like taking care of yourself. And I think that's really great advice. And maybe we can definitely talk about that a little bit more as well. And then Chris, I know you've got a special message here. Go ahead.
Yes, I have to talk to the parents, because I was speaking with my parents as well, who are in the program, and just kind of reassuring them that there is, although it's scary and it's nerve-wracking, there are some things you can do to support your child and to make sure that they're okay. You know, whether it's sending a gift card or trying to send things that are online, because I know the mail may be a little slow, or just making sure that you have that contact information available for your child. I mean, we were laughing before, and I was saying that even though I'm older, my parents still consider me the baby. So it's, you know, you never lose that title, whether you're the oldest or the youngest. So it's okay to be nervous, but it's also knowing what to do in order to make sure that your child is okay. And also, you know, kids, make sure that your parents are okay as well, because they're nervous for you.
Yeah, on that note, will you guys give me a quick why in the chat if you've talked to your parents about just all this? I mean, I know if you're a high school student and living at home, that might be a little bit easier, but even so, I'm not going to assume that that's happened. I think that's, you know, we were chatting before, Chris, and I think that's big, right? Like, I think that, you know, your parents are your support. They care about you. No one's going to care about you more, right? So would love to hear from folks in the chat in regards to if you've been able to have that kind of you know, conversation already. And then real quick, when we're talking about, there's a question that came in. It was, I'm a senior. I didn't get a chance to visit some of the colleges that I was accepted into. All campus visits are now closed. So how do I get a feel for the campus before I have to decide on May 1st? It's a big one. I'd love to get your thoughts on it, but I'll just say one thing. Like, you've got to know everyone is thinking of you. I'm talking juniors and seniors, right? They know how you're impacted. And when I say they, I mean colleges, high schools, parents, like, and they're going to look for ways to make this work or make this right. And so keep your eye out. It's a very fluid situation. You may not see a solution right now, but you'll see things start to pop up that you may have never expected. So I don't know if you guys heard, for example, AP tests are going to be delivered online in a 45-minute like length, free response questions only, open book, like things that you're like, whoa, I never thought they would ever do that, right? Like I think everyone knows that this is a unprecedented time, that there's a lot of things going on that we've just never were ready or expecting. And so we're gonna all work together to support. I guess, does that feel like a cop-out answer? Maybe a little bit, right? So maybe you guys can help a little bit more. All I would say is like, don't despair that you're feeling grief for things that you might feel like you'll miss out on. But I'm confident that schools are going to find a way to make this work for you, either by extending application deadlines or figuring out ways to get you that information. But I don't know what you guys want to add here. Just want to respond to this question real quick.
I'll respond to it. I would just say that just I agree 100% with what you're saying, Dennis, because I know a lot of schools, what they're starting to do is actually do virtual reality kind of like campus tours, like on their websites to kind of because they know that students can't go on campus. So I'll say it's just really connecting with the admissions office, whatever schools you're closely considering, and just kind of seeing if they have anything available that you can kind of participate through virtually. Because I know that's what my institution is now doing for the open houses that they have left. They're doing everything virtually and having people in specific chats that you can kind of like speak to. So you kind of get a more of a feel with those specific advisors or the specific program of what they may be like. So I would say most definitely reaching out to the admissions office and really seeing what other options they have out there.
Yeah, this was kind of like one of those like ask the audience moments too. They completely agree with you, Stephen. Looks like we've got virtual tours and social media, student ambassadors, alumni, current students, professors from your major of interest. I think that kind of goes along with our theme of like, keep at it, right? Like don't, control what you can control, but be proactive, get out there. And maybe that's a chance for us to pivot here. If you guys have more questions around things you can do around COVID-19, please throw in the chat. I will definitely bring us back to that because I want to be in the here and now. But we do have a little poll from you from RISE. RISE is an organization that supports students facing financial and resource hardships. So here's a quick little survey you can take. They're hoping it can identify critical needs for students kind of impacted by campus closures. So if you could fill that out, that'd be great. I don't know, did anyone, Eric, Chris, did you want to add to that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. Another person pointed out, talking to alumni, when it comes to alumni, we a lot of people, they really love the school. I know that if I graduate, when I graduate and someone approaches to me like, hey, can you talk to me about University of Michigan, I would love to talk about it. But even though you're going to talk to alumni and people who attend and work at the university, always take their experience with a grain of salt, because their experience will not mirror to yours, because you say that the person was a comp sci major and you're a theater major. Definitely the experiences are going to be different. Nonetheless, the social aspect of it you can get a small glimpse at it, and definitely make sure you talk to a lot of people who have some sort of connection to university.
Yeah, let me stand with you, Eric, for a second here. How did you decide? Like, what? I'm sure it wasn't just the campus visit, and maybe it was. I mean, I could be wrong, but like, what were some of the things that helped you say this is the place for me?
Right. Yeah. So, well, the campus visit definitely helped a lot to identify like how I see myself walking through it. It was definitely like the way the university approached me, in the sense that when I was admitted, they sent an email for admitted students for them to help them visit university. For people who are qualified from financial aid and they needed it, they sent out like, hey, we will pay your flight. We could host you as well. Like you could, we want you here. We want to see you here and see if you like it. Like that's definitely something that spoke to me and something that swayed my decision towards UFM.
Yeah, so I would say keep your eyes and ears open. If the universities, it sounds like they really made you feel like they wanted you to be a part of the community. So it sounds like they're going to have to work extra hard maybe without being able to bring you actually out on campus. So maybe we can look into that. And then Chris, I know you. There's a few more questions here, but Chris, I know you wanted to jump in and say something here. No, go ahead. You good? Or-
Actually, it was Eric. Eric did hit the point that I was going to make, so that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, hey, there's a couple other questions coming in from the poll. I think we should take a beat to hit these. You know, I work with underrepresented minorities and first generations in college students at a university. I'm concerned that they won't ask for help, so I'm trying to post a lot of resources for them. Guys, this one, I don't know if you guys wrote it, but this feels like, you know, I know we talked about this a lot. How would you respond there? Chris, why don't you didn't get a chance to get in on that last one, so.
What I did, or what I'm doing for my students, is a threefold approach. First, I work with the students, showing them different things that places that they can go on the campus, so that they're not scared of what it looks like, or they get some concrete familiarity with where they're going. And then I approach the parent or guardians with what they can do in order to take a look at the campus, either pictures, because I do deal with students who do not have access to the internet. So I either have a group session with the parents and students where we will go through virtually just all of the different colleges that they were accepted to. And then I also have just a one-on-one with parents and explain to them, you know, these are some of the things that you can look at. If you notice certain behavioral things when your child comes home, there are some things that you can ask about just as a concern. Really trying to get as many conversations as I possibly can to make sure that students and parents are as comfortable as I can when their child goes away.
Yeah. Are there any flags in particular that you'd want to share, or maybe one that you worked through recently, potentially, or?
Stephen brought up one that I come across more often than not, is the imposter syndrome. I don't necessarily belong here. I don't like it here because people don't like me. That's something that negative self-talk, when you start hearing that, you know, this isn't just for me, that, you know, it's something that I myself have gone through in when I was in college. Like, do I really belong here? You know, how do you talk yourself through that? Or how do parents talk themselves? How do you help your student get through that time? We have open conversations about that. That's probably the biggest one for me, is the imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And Chris, it sounds like, and maybe Stephen, you can jump in here. We've got a guest, you know, the guest who want to talk about that wants to be very specific about the current crisis and getting help to those students. And it makes sense, right? Like, I think this can really make a student feel even more like that. And we can kind of pivot that in a little while. But Stephen, what could you say? Like, how do you get them to ask for help? Like, what are the things you can do there?
Yeah, what I would say is just kind of really kind of speaking to the student, kind of letting them know, like, just because you're asking for help doesn't mean that it shows like weakness or anything like that. Because I know for a lot of underrepresented students, and a lot for first gen students, like, they've gone through a path, a very hard path, and they're like, I can figure this out on my own. And sometimes they go a little too far on their own. That's a little too hard to kind of like lift them out of there. And I think it's just kind of having that conversation earlier on. Just because you ask for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's just really you just acknowledging that you are in a different space, and that things look quite different from where you came from, whether that is high school or an undergrad. Like, things just look different. So I think it's just really taking it that angle with the student, on the lines of just really just trying to support them the best you can, and really making sure that they have a smooth path as they're going through undergrad or high school.
Yeah. Eric, why don't you guys ask for help? What's the deal? What's the mentality?
I can definitely attest for that. When I first started college, I feel that I had to go all of it on my own, since this is uncharted territory for my family, and I have to figure it out myself. And it took quite a while before I learned to ask for help. And something that helped me along the way to learn, like, to ask for help was, it only takes 20 seconds for like the uncomfortable part to pass away. And the worst that they can say is no. And after you realize that, it becomes easier. You don't have to go through it alone. It help goes a really good way, from like getting the resource to making new connections.
Yeah, and I mean, and then actually, Chris, you actually answered a different question that came up in the poll, which is around new ways to assist and keep communicating with my students. And you've had a constant like theme of connecting with parents to make that happen. So that works great. And then overall, it looks like folks are worried about specific scenarios, like first-gen Latino students, especially the financial part. Some folks are worried about Canadian students. It's going to be hard to kind of address really individual cases without knowing all the details. But maybe what I'll reiterate is, and maybe that this is something you guys can all touch upon, like what are some other extra things? You talked about spectrum, Stephen, right? But what are some of the extra things that colleges are doing really at this time to make available to students? Eric, maybe you've experienced something already on your campus. I know it must be tough to be away from your family right now.
Yeah. So, oh no, actually, I'm back in New York. I moved yesterday. Yeah, but definitely when the whole pandemic first hit, it was hard to not know if my family was well and how they were taking care of themselves. Um, but the university does. I cannot speak for all universities, but I know that U of M took the lead that when it came to grades for college students, they instated a new grading policy that will keep your GPA in context relative to like how the pandemic hits. We get a pass or a no fail due to COVID in our transcript, and that's just a way for the universities to know that we are very aware how the situation will affect your learning experience as well as your social experience. We cannot do anything, but we want to help as much as we can.
Yeah, and it looks like there's a lot of gratitude coming in from the chat. What other, Stephen, what are some of the other things that people maybe look out for that might miss, that universities are really trying to get out there, similar to this guest who, knows the tendency, as you mentioned, of first-gen students to not really want to ask for help, really all students, but first-gen students maybe in particular. What are some things that they could look out for?
I would say one of the things is a lot of institutions are doing a lot of different like programs that are there to kind of like help track students or kind of help connect students to faculty a lot more. So that's one of the things that you kind of be on the lookout for, because there are a lot of programs that are doing that now. And I would say on lines of like the financial aid side, there's a really big push right now in higher education to do financial literacy that runs out of the financial aid offices, that they're starting very early from when they first start to kind of speaking to the students about financial aid and that's one of the things that I will say that a lot of parents should be aware of, and also students should be aware of, even though a lot of the times those conversations aren't as attractive to kind of talk about how much debt or kind of having that conversation. But I would say that's a lot of what a lot of financial aid offices are starting to do, is having those financial literacy courses for students to kind of help break down what's happening. And I would say if that's something that you're interested in, just kind of connecting to the financial aid office, and they will gladly kind of help guide you along lines of like where those programs are being held.
I don't know if you guys are hearing this, but like pass, no fail due to COVID, like these are measures that schools are taking to really be able to help find unique ways to kind of acknowledge the situation and to help you get through and not lose out from the experience. I mean, Eric, I'm sure that was a huge lift off your shoulders. And then Stephen, to your point, like financial literacy, like putting in the resources to help students learn that, like I wish, like I'd had that experience when I first went through college life. And, maybe again, this goes back to what can we do now? We're in this together. How can we support each other? And then now, Chris, I want to get you back in the game here. I got a couple questions that I think will be perfect for you. We have one question. It's, what are the recommendations for a high school sophomore who's not sure how to get started thinking about college? And then kind of loop that along with, I'm going to tie it together. I'm going to give you a little bundle package here. I'm worried about how scholarship opportunities will be affected with this crisis, right? Like how can we respond to that?
I'm gonna kind of go backwards on that one, starting with the whole scholarship situation. I find it hard to believe that people are not going to be sensitive to deadlines. Um, uh, Working with faculty here, they are very concerned about the students. Switching from traditional to online classes, they want to make sure that students are comfortable and that they get the information that they need, and they are very active and proactive about how this is going to affect them as far as learning in the future. So this is one of those situations where it's hard to control and it's not your fault, but there are people who are behind the scenes who are doing the very best they can to make sure that you get the support and you get the chances that are available to everyone. And working with students who are now looking at colleges and thinking about, all right, well, what should I do? This is also a nice time to look at what the college's response to this would be. You know, is this a college that was really, if I was interested in this college, how are they supporting their students? What are they looking at? I know, not to say anything with NYT, but the NYT is really pushing hard at making sure that the students are comfortable and that they have all of the resources available to them that they would have in a face-to-face situation. Looking at the club responses, I know a lot of the clubs that I've been associated with are reaching out to students they were reaching out to the NAACP and reaching out to other areas to make sure that students have the resources that they need in order to make this transition as smooth as possible and to make the transition back into the classroom and into the college setting as smooth as possible.
Yeah, I love it. One thing that's left with me when we were first talking about this was, you're not responsible for this time. That was what you told me. That was what you want to tell the students. And that's powerful, right? Like, I think I feel guilty, like, and I'm not in college, but I feel guilty that I could be doing more or could have done more to prepare. But the reality is we're here and we're here now. And I think that message, I hear it loud and clear, right? And so everyone's working through this, and it looks like we've got a lot of solidarity in the room. Another guest has piped up and said, many scholarships have extended their deadlines in light of the coronavirus situation. So make sure to contact the scholarship directly to ask. And I just love that insight, like going back to Eric's point earlier, like how, U of M really reached out and make Eric feel like he was someone wanted by this university was the, kind of sealed the deal. That same way, it makes a lot of sense to look out for their response and, how they are reaching out to students. What are their priorities, right? I think crisis a lot of times really gleans what people's priorities are in certain situations. If I may get a little bit more specific on that topic, there is a college counselor in Los Angeles who's a little bit worried about that May 1st deadline, about, navigating financial aid as a dreamer, how to make the best fit decisions. So I love that insight. Is there anything else that students could maybe consider? I get it, virtual tours, I get it, reaching out to students. Those are all really great practical steps and maybe enough, but is there anything else? Is there anything else that you guys think could be helpful in making a call here or getting the info they need?
I know that for dreamers, it's especially hard because financial aid is already a battle, and this situation will definitely hit different individuals differently. So when it comes to financial aid, I always say to my friends and people who ask me for advice is talk to the financial aid office. There, a lot of people there are more than willing to help you understand your financial aid package, how anything will affect you, and what are some resources that they have on their campus. I know that when I was admitted, I I asked them like, hey, is there any scholarships that I could apply to make sure that my situation is good? And they pointed out a resource that they had for admitted students, a scholarship for transfer students, where they will give them, if they qualify, they will give them the scholarship. So definitely reach out to the financial aid office.
Yeah. I'm seeing a theme here, right? I mean, we're talking about take control, but also like there are people who want to help. There are a lot of, teachers, parents, counselors in this, even in this meeting, who want to help. They're posting resources. And I'm not saying it's going to fall in your lap, by no means, but go out, call some people, call some offices. There are going to be solutions. I think everyone said it on this, in this call, that like they want to help and they're going to be flexible during this time. And then just tying the knot on the whole, I'm a sophomore, what do I do? I really want to reiterate what Chris said earlier. It's really stuck with me. Like, this is a really great chance to kind of pull back the curtain and see how colleges and universities are responding. What's the university that you want to be at? Like, what are they putting out in terms of messaging or support, or what is the action that they're taking? Very likely that ties into how that administration is run and how they support their students. So I think that's really, really big, and I just want to make sure we highlight that. Awesome. I want to keep going. We're a little bit past the half-hour mark, but guys, please keep hitting the chat. You guys have participated way more than I thought you would, to be honest. So thank you. We were really thinking about ways we could get you to kind of engage with us, but I guess we have a great panel here, so they've made it easy. But one other theme we've had is like, if you're not in college yet, you can make a plan, right? And so I think we want to kind of dive into that. Oh, wow, we got a question to really set us up here. We've got high school seniors and juniors. We have a lot of time after final exams, right? What should we do to prepare for college, internships, jobs, right? Plus, or I guess carrot is what someone put in there. Have a plan. Chris, does that sound familiar? What do you got?
Yes, actually, that's something that before my seniors leave the program and they go to college, one of the things I have them do is to write down their goals and have a plan. Whether it's 3 days, 3 months, or 3 years, you need to know what you're going to be doing. So if they're going to college, we take a look at what the college looks like, who they're going to meet within that first week and a half, and their homework for me is to email me. And I do follow up on my homework. So they have
why is that? What are the specifics there? What is it about that act, I guess?
Knowing that there's somebody there that they met who's new, and knowing that they've introduced themselves to the college, and they kind of get that the administration, the provost, the deans, the faculty, they get used to that community. Knowing the points of contact, or knowing the people that they can contact if they happen to run into a situation that they can't control, or that they need help with. Who is it that I need to go to? Finding those resources are important within the first couple of days, and usually after that they can get through whatever they need. But having those goals, having that plan, having that in hand when they're going to college, and knowing that Mr. Williams is going to follow up on them, it's very helpful, especially for that first couple of weeks.
I like that. Stephen, what advice would you give? How do you prepare? How do you use this time?
I would say just taking this time to just kind of like read up on things, kind of learn what things you struggled with in high school, along the lines of like what different kind of like learning styles you have, really taking part in different chats or conversations like this that Kaplan is having. I would say just really, because you have the gift of time and you kind of slow things down, just taking time to kind of just like reflect on what things you could kind of like strengthen a little bit before you go to college. or if you are looking into kind of like internships, just really searching the internet for like what internships you have, and really kind of focusing on lines of like doing interview prep, like answering the question of how do you describe yourself in an interview, and what are things that you want to do or you're passionate about, and why you're passionate about those things. I would say just really getting this time to just to get to know you will be a really good thing to kind of help prepare you for the college or for the internships and for those jobs.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Eric, I know you said earlier, find some like hobbies to distract yourself. You want to kind of reiterate those? Like, what would you do? What would you do this time? What are you doing this time? Maybe that's the
Well,
better question.
well, unfortunately, I don't have the time to like look for new hobbies. So my school moved online from as soon as we got the email that school's closed, everything moved online. So right now I'm getting busy with school. However, I'd say that something that my first college professor made me do in my English class was to write about yourself, like how do you describe yourself. And after the semester ended, he gave us back that poster or like a small letter, and like you realize how much you changed. And I know that Chris said that write what you plan to do in 3 days and 3 years, and yeah, you're going to college and sometimes you don't know what you're going to major, and that's okay. But instead of like worrying about not knowing what to major and what to do, try to find what you find interesting. I have a friend that she really liked the whole biology of plants, and she's gonna major in ethnobiology. I think that's the right name of the major, but like it's something that she found interesting, and that's how she found her major. Someone like chemistry. I don't really like chemistry, but like she went into the department and she looked at like how is it gonna look for her like years on the road if she goes into that pathway. So it's like, yeah, find your own like your interest and go from there. That's always a good lead.
Yeah. All right. So let me sum it up. Let me know. Keep me honest, guys. So Chris, you're saying reach out to deans, provosts, like don't even limit yourself. I would say that's hard. I want to hear your thoughts, like, especially when you don't know if you belong. I know for a fact that like when I was going through the experience, it was like, do they even care about me? Like, do they even know who I am? So I'd love to get your take, even my professors, right? Like, do they even know who's this guy, right? But I'd love to touch upon that. But go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's the point, so that they do know who you are. It's not often, and it's not something that I haven't done. That was the first thing I did, and many moons ago when I went into college, I knew that I was one of however many hundred students. But I also knew I was going to be one of maybe 5 or 6 students that the dean, the provost, or even the president of the college was going to meet. And that was in my mind. They were going to know who I was, at least if it was for a brief moment. And those are the people that they're going to remember, that take that initiative. And it's a hard step. It's hard to walk into somebody's office and say, "Hi, I'm going to your college, and who are you?" It's very difficult, but it's something that they remember because very few students do it. So when something does come along, especially I know Fikri was asking about what to do to prepare for internships and jobs, and when opportunities come along, the first people that they're going to think of is, who is that person that I met, who took the initiative to come in and see me? Who was that person that walked into my office and she shook my hand and said hi, even though she was nervous, and I could see that she was nervous. But those are the things that are going to set you up for later on in getting internships, getting jobs, or just getting familiarity with the college and getting that comfort level.
Yeah, makes sense. And then Stephen, I heard from you, self-reflect, maybe some time for TED Talks. I know there's a lot of, websites offering free college courses that you guys can just jump into and see what that's about. I feel like Coursera is one of them, but I'm sure a quick Google search away will help you. Maybe Eric, you can recommend a course that you found surprising. And then Eric, I'm hearing from you, just widen your experience, right? Do things. One of our guests said, shadow professionals in their area of interest, volunteer. I think that's great. I know it's maybe a little tough right now, right? Just with everything that's going on, but this is temporary, right? We have to believe that, right? Like, and we are flattening the curve. We're doing what we can as a community to make this, not hit as hard as it can. But once it's over, what are the steps you're going to take? How are you going to get out of that gate just really ready to, to crush it? Hey, real quick, some specific questions came in. A lot of internships have already been canceled. What else can I do? So I think we've pretty much covered that. But if you have any more advice that comes to mind, definitely we'll love to hear it. Another one is, do you recommend work study as a first-year college student? I think it's a great question. Maybe Stephen, I'm sure you kind of get that question a lot, right?
Yes.
So what?
Yeah, I absolutely do recommend it as a first year student, because not only do you have a job, like you have a job that you get paid for, but it's also the fact that you kind of get exposed to more administrators on campus to kind of know. Because when I was an RD, I had work study students that worked at my main desk, and they would always contact me for letters of recommendation. I will always kind of really connect them to other resources that are happening on campus. So don't look at it just as a job on campus, but it's also kind of a bridge to all the other resources that are available at the institution as well. So I always recommend for students to do federal work study, especially during like their first semester, during their first year, just to kind of really get acclimated and getting to know a lot of more professionals on campus.
Right. Going back to Chris's earlier point, feeling like you belong. How do you get part of that culture? How do you get involved there? And I don't know who guest 2719 is, but I love you, heart you very much right now. They wrote in, as a first-gen student, it's important to connect with faculty and staff who are also first-gen. They've started creating programs where they can connect first-gen students to adults on campus that were also first-gen. It can be very powerful. I think we all agree with that, right? Like, no one will know other than folks who have kind of been through it. It's unfair to say no one will know, but I think that can definitely be a great way to support each other. And then Eric, let me ask you, how'd you, again, like, I've been just amazed by how, and maybe this is just you and your personality, but how'd you get so comfortable? Like, I feel like you've really connected with, and you're getting the inside scoop on dorm changes, on things closing down. Like, what were some of the steps you took to really, are you doing work study, or what have you done? What are the steps that you took?
Yeah, so I am doing work study. I'm working as a research assistant for a research based on how like Snapchat messaging and how we like tend to open the message right away.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I decided to do it as soon as I transferred to U of M is because I knew that I wanted to expand my interest, and I knew that research was one way. And it definitely allowed me to meet my mentor and like how to see like if academia was something that I wanted to go into. As per like how I tapped into the networks that I'm in, it was really about like always like trying to get out of my comfort zone. You don't really grow if you stay in your own little bubble. You might feel safe and like going to meet new people, going to clubs, going to like
What kind of clubs, Eric? No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
No, I'm in a fitness club because I knew that I wanted to develop more of that. I wanted to start like lifting weights and all of that. So I wanted to surround people who I thought might encourage me to do that. So that's what I did. I also joined the Latino club in my school because I knew that I needed to see more people of color that I could identify with in my own campus, and that was something that I did that to assert myself. Like, yeah, I deserve my spot here. I joined the LGBTQ club too because I wanted to meet more people that identify as that. So it's like it does feel uncomfortable, and it did feel uncomfortable the first day that I went to their meetings. But something that I always kept telling myself is that 20 seconds is all it takes for you to like get through that uncomfortable setting, and then like it's just momentum from there.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I like how you've been able to kind of use those community of students. And I think we can all safely say you're going to be able to find a club that works for you at whatever college and university that you're attending. So, and it may take some work, but you want to get out there and be able to
And
make
to
it
add
happen.
on to that, even if there's no club, a lot of universities like always make a lot of money for student activities. And if you don't find the club that may want to join, then create your own club. You will find people that identify with the same interests, and sometimes universities will they will help fund your club if it's necessary.
Yeah, that's great advice, Eric. Thank you. You know, I know I made the joke about clubs, but we've talked about a lot about also finding balance as well, because we've given them a lot of work to do. We've given you homework, right? Like, don't forget, Stephen gave you homework. How would you describe yourself? Can you answer that question confidently in a mirror? I would challenge you to try to do that. Maybe, tonight or sometime this week. It's going to be a question you're going to get asked at some point. And if you're not asking yourself that, this is a really great time to do it and think about that. Like, how do you define yourself? What defines you? What kind of person are you? I think it's going to feel weird at first, but it's something you definitely want to practice. But not academics, right? Like, Chris, what kind of non-academic? It can't be all just about studying and work study and talking to your parents and talking to like what else can they do? Come on.
Again, this is something I tell my students. I'm one of those weird teachers that say, academics is important, yes, but getting that social part of your college experience is just as important, because that's where you're going to build those interpersonal relationships, build those skills that you're going to, not only skills, but build that friendship network that you would need. And especially times like this, that you just want to reach out to somebody and pick up a phone and call, or go on Google Hangouts or something like that, just so that you can communicate with each other and have some type of sense of community. But there are merits to having that good balance, especially 2 o'clock in the morning when you're studying, and you just don't know the answer, and there's somebody that you can duo with, or you can pick up the phone and call. So building that strong social part of your college experience is just as important as the academic. And I know it sounds weird, but yes, academics is important, but that socialization is also just as important.
Yeah, you guys heard it here, right? You guys heard it from Chris here. All right. And then Stephen, we got one more question, and I think we gotta kind of move to final thoughts. But what happens if you have difficulty affording the time to volunteer or to do the free internships? I mean, I think this is a very valid question, right? Internships are all non-paid. I ended up working part-time in promotions due to the high hourly pay rate. What can you do to make up? So that's reality, right? First-year students may have to work, may have to pick up those part-time jobs to make things happen. So what are some other things maybe they could do? It sounds like it's not like what jobs can they find it, but it's like, if I don't have time to do an internship, what are maybe some light lift ways? Is there some advice you'd throw out there?
I would say just along the lines of just kind of marking that on your applications, because I also sit on the admissions board for like the College of Medicine, and those are things that once you mark 1st Gen like on the application, like they are mindful of those things along the lines of like what limitations you may have for it, and that's one of the limitations that people are aware of. But it's just really making sure that you're talking about the experiences that you had like at your high school or at your college, and really highlighting what you did do during those times, because you couldn't do the volunteering, but just highlighting what is it that you were doing, whether that is taking care of a family, whether that is working part-time, just highlighting those things and talking about those things that you learned during those interactions are important to kind of like highlight.
Yeah, don't be ashamed. You took control. You made it happen, right? Like, that is part of your story and something to be very, very proud of. And so I think that's great advice, Stephen, right? Like, if you're out there, doesn't matter what your circumstances, don't think that it holds you back. You can seek things out. You can make it happen. You can take those steps to get where you need to be. So thank you for asking that question, Jocelyn. I hope that answer helps you to continue thinking about how your application will look. All right, we're reaching almost the end of our time. I want to kind of switch gears and pivot to final thoughts, right? We've said a lot here. So I'm going to ask you guys to really think about what are the top things you want folks to take away here, right? What are the main things from everything? Like, what's the advice you'd give? I know we've got COVID-19 out there, but we need a plan, right? We need to take action. We need to stay in control. Eric, you want to kick us off with some final thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say that something to take away is it's okay to not know all the answers, whether it's a test, whether if it's you are applying to college and you don't know what major or what college you want to go, it's okay. It's about like how you react to it. Find those people who you think can help you find the answer. You don't always have to do it alone.
I love that. I love that. Stephen?
I'll say for me, it's just when you do get in, to whatever institution you do get in, just celebrate it. Just acknowledge that you got in. And as Chris said about the imposter syndrome, that's something that happens. That's very common for students to kind of experience. But just remember that you got in, and because you got in, you can do it. And just really focus on that and making sure that you don't psych yourself out about it.
Love that. Love that. And Chris?
I would say use this time to kind of have your plan so that when things do happen, you have a plan to fall back on. So when something unexpected goes a way that you don't want to, you know that there's a group that you can fall back to. There are people that you can contact, and there are ways that you have already figured out how to get through the situation. I mean, nobody would have thought about this, but you still make sure that you have your loved one's number in your cell phone, or you remembered their phone number. So just have a it doesn't have to be concrete, very laid out, but just have a plan of action, just so that if something does go wrong, you know what to do. And use this time to prepare for anything that you missed in the past.
Yeah, I love how you didn't say the word parents, but I heard that underlying in everything you said there. I know it's not just parents, but I know that's what your heart is saying, right? Guys, we got one last question at the buzzer. How can we make our college application stand out? Do you want to do that real quick? What can we? I mean, Stephen, I know you said first gen. You guys have been through a lot. Be proud. But what else? Anything else Chris, what are some things you look for?
I look for that student who takes not necessarily takes chances, but takes, I don't want to say it in that way, but has tried to find as many different experiences as they possibly can, and took advantage of those experiences. Whatever they did, they took advantage of it. If something presented itself, they explored it. It might not have been something that they were interested in, but they still explored it.
Amazing. Stephen?
I would say for me, just be honest with your application. If there is something that you see in your application that you think will be bad, such as like a bad grade, don't shy away from it. Just explain what happened through that experience. Because during that time, you are your advocate. Your application is what is advocating for you to get into that institution. So just really making sure that you're being honest with it. And I think that's the advice I would give to students.
Right. Even if you have a low GPA, right?
Yeah.
It's no matter what, it's all part of it, all part of the story. Eric, what about you? What made you stand out? Oh, you're mute. You're mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, yep.
Okay. I'd say tell them who you are and what you plan to do with what you know, and how you will make sure that you will take advantage of the opportunities that they have for you. And yeah.
I love it. Guys, it's the top of the hour. It's the end of our time together. Thank you so much again for being here, being able to talk with just Eric, Chris, Stephen. I think we are all on the same page. We want to support you. Let us know how we can do that. I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you some action steps to take away, things you can do in the future. Thank you so much again, especially just during these crazy times. look, this is a fluid situation. Look out for new news day by day. Look out for new ways that you'll be supported. It's going to be out there. So be proactive, go seek it out, have a plan, call your parents, and make it happen. Be safe and healthy. This is Dennis, Eric, Chris, and Steven signing off. We'll see you next time. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Have a great night. Bye.